Good evening, it's this guy. We have watched King Cobra drink alcohol on his streams until he passes out. We have also watched King Cobra make some unique food choices, and we have also watched King Cobra being sent burritos from his fans that contain no meat but extra sauces, and King Cobra obviously proceeded to eat those burritos because he was hungry, and that's just what hungry people do. Anyway, foodie beauty, of course. I mean, King Cobra is sadly no more, and Foodie Beauty obviously tried to make this situation all about herself. Well, not directly, but and she didn't directly accuse reaction channels of killing King Cobra, but she tried to guilt trip the general lolcow audience into feeling guilty about having bullied Cobra and being nasty to him. But although I'm not sure what the term body trolling actually means, I can say that in my experience, most people who trolled King Cobra were not malicious at all and didn't wish any harm. But just in case you missed those controversial pearls of wisdom, I know that Goose-Chuck is probably watching. And Goose-Chuck, I'm sorry that you have lived 50 years feeling guilty about not finding a religion that suits you. But I wanted to tell you that you don't have to feel guilty about not finding a religion that is to your liking, because religion is there are two reasons why a religion was invented, and to be more specific, there are religion is only a later invention to neatly categorize all beliefs. But there were two main reasons why people started believing in God. The first reason was because people were afraid of death, and they were worried about what happens to them after death. And they basically were scared that if they die, nothing special will happen to them. They will cease to exist, and their life, if it could be called that, would have no meaning. Uh, However, if there are people who want to believe in afterlife, this goes a little intrusively already to the second point. But if there are people who want to believe in afterlife, religion might not, at least organized religion, might not be the answer. And actually, uh, uh, if we gradually have science explain more and more things that were a mystery once, then the science that could actually give us indirect answers to a possible afterlife is astronomy. Ever since 1950, at least 1950s, science fiction writers have been speculating on the idea of multiverses, and then of course we have TV shows like Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and and as of late we have movies like the Marvel movies that are all in Marvel Cinematic Universe now, which tackle the idea of multiverses. And now, for at least the last 25 years, astronomers have begun to explore the idea of not just one universe, but multiverse. And although it has been said that we can never have evidence of another universes, it has been speculated first on science fiction and now in non-fictional science that there might be multiple universes, that our universe is potentially not the only universe in the um, multiverse, and that our universe has 3 dimensions, 4 if you include time, which, by the way, is an interesting topic on itself, because although um, the popularly advertised 4D movies actually are misleading, because as I understand it, the D in 4D does not refer to dimensions, but rather directions, because, oh yeah, you have a chair that could move front and back and left and right, and we have 4D, and we are so funny, so innovative. Most people, most people are blind to this fact, and still think of 4D as being the same as 3D, in the sense that if 3D movies are three-dimensional movies, 4D movies must be four-dimensional. And since I mentioned that the fourth dimension might be time, then uh, uh, if we employ that logic, all 2D movies are actually 3D movies, because all the classic 2D movies have a height and width, but they also have a time, because they are filmed in continuous time, and when you watch the movies, you watch them also in continuous time. So if we would argue that the 40 movies include the fourth dimension, time, then it becomes logical then that since usual movies operate in our time space, the usual movies should be referred as 3D movies. And that's an interesting point. But anyway, as I mentioned before, our universe has 3 dimensions, or it's better to say 3+1 dimensions. But other universes might have more than 4 dimensions, and they might have actually collide with our universe, but since we cannot comprehend them, we cannot ever tell whether they exist within our universe, so to speak, which would mean that one could venture the guess that when people die, they just switch dimensions, which, if we theorize that, this would also uh, help with the understanding that we sometimes feel the presence of a loved one that has passed, because they exist uh, uh, parallel to our universe. Anyway, as I was saying, people started believing in God because, one, they were afraid of death, and that after death it becomes nothing. But two, the second reason why people started believing in God was that I wouldn't say that when Homo sapiens started to be, their brains were much less developed, but either case they had limited understanding of our world, and for example, they couldn't explain simple questions like, why is it raining? And thus they invented God, because it was an easy answer. Why is it raining? God made it. And actually the rain is the phenomenon of raining is actually a very fitting example, because the thing is even nowadays we have people who don't actually understand what processes contribute to raining, and basically uh, the core idea that the first step of understanding why is it raining, or it's better to say the first obstacle is that people think that just because we don't see the air either inside this room or outside, just because people don't see anything in the air, they basically it's actually pretty stupid to express that way, but basically they assume that the air is basically has the properties of vacuum, which actually also the vacuum of space actually isn't empty, but that would be another topic. Either way, the reason why it's a fitting example is that some people for some reason have taking a liking to the idea of chemtrails, which is basically they think that the government poisons us, and I'm not going into why conspiracy theories exist, but the people basically believe that the traces planes leave behind are the chemicals the government sprays. And as a side note, this is very funny because there are people in different countries that have taken a liking to the idea uh, of chemtrails, which would mean that many governments all over the world have we might have wars and other conflicts. We might disagree on politics and you know, gays being a thing, but for some reason governments all agreed that we should poison our citizens with some chemicals. Anyway, what the chemtrails actually is that the air, as I mentioned, the air is not an empty space. It has oxygen on it, in it, and if planes that travel very high speeds, they move through the air or Earth's atmosphere, which contains oxygen and and uh, uh, and spots where water particles have accumulated to form clouds, even if the clouds are invisible for us down on Earth's surface. I mean the human scale surface. So the planes that move through the air actually make their way through the oxygen and the water particles, and they and basically just like a mole or a meerkat or some rodent would dig a tunnel uh, through the soil doesn't collapse behind them, and the rodent leaves actually a tunnel behind, and the same thing happens when the plane travels through the air. Of course, the difference is that the air has no has different properties than soil, and so the plane trace actually disappears rather quickly with time. But since people don't know all of those things, they, just like primitive humans needed God to explain the things primitive science could not explain. The people who believe in chemtrails uh, with have brains that lack understanding that the planes move through the air, and the air is not a vacuum. They need some theory to explain why the planes leave traces, and uh, their answer is that uh, planes spray chemicals on us because there is this concept that they do understand that when planes, for example, purposefully spray chemicals on fields, they leave a similar trace behind, although then their chemicals are heavier than the air and the chemicals come down, but they do not think that the uh, traces planes leave behind don't come down. That is a detail they do not pay attention to. Either way, now that the science has answered a lot of questions people might have, and they continue to solve mysteries of our environment, then one could argue that uh, the second of the two reasons why people started believing in God has now being ha, ha, has now been rendered obsolete, and perhaps that is why religion is so keen to reject science. Um, I don't want to offend the entire religious population, so I would say that there are, of course, there are people. Uh, I don't want to say that scientists are not people, but there are uh, regular people. I mean, regular people that believe in God, but also acknowledge science. But there are also scientists who are religious, but uh, by the definition of being a scientist, they do not reject science. So now, what remains is that people are afraid of what happens to them after death, and they need some comfort, which is actually uh, it's not necessary to scream to people that they're if they believe in something that they are wrong. There is nothing, because for example, when two people have been married a long time and one of them dies, the other one either physically goes to the grave of the one who died, or just privately in home, maybe looks at the past loved one's picture, or just thi- just merely thinks that what would my wife do in this situation? I mean, when they have a problem and they need a solution, they often think that what would my wife or husband do? Depends who is the dead one, and this is because uh, they just have such a deep connection with their have developed such a deep connection with their spouse when they were alive, that even after they are dead, they think that what would my spouse do in this situation, or what would they want, and in very rough terms, belief in God could be understood as something similar, which is funny when you express it with the phrase, "What would Jesus do?" But anyway, not all people require religion to understand the world. So I hope I gave some solace to Goose as to uh, relieve some of the guilt she feels about not having found a religion that, uh, that she would fit into. Uh, Basically, what I wanted to say is that it's uh, it's okay to not be religious. Um, oh, this ah. uh, I also wanted to show you that I went to the thrift store today. Um, in the morning, and I bought a cassette, and I actually listened to the tape, and it's not as savage as the artist suggests. I mean, not as savage as Ozzy Osbourne, of course. No one is. But if you want to have a chill music, uh, I would actually recommend this because it was quite nice, and actually I'm not going to go into this, but it actually has a song about religion. I mean, it's not as uh, as they say on the nose about it. It doesn't refer to religion, but basically it can be seen as a song of faith because this singer man lists some particular things that he believes in, and if you listen to those words, you I would hope that many of you would actually agree that this is quite nice of a message. Uh, um, I really, uh, uh, so I know that this is not a picture of cobra, and the name is not cobra, but when I saw this bear at the store, I immediately thought of this King Cobra, and that I should um, drink this beer in his honor, although I'm not sure that if I could have met him in person while he was alive, I'm not sure I would have been friends with him, but I know that uh, that he was actually very loved by his fans, and and as little I have seen of him, he was a person whose brain worked a little bit differently than the average Joe or Joseph or Travis, but he had a kind heart, and he wasn't malicious or ill-wishing like like Foodie Beauty, or as arrogant as Amber Lynn, or so I don't know what the okay. No, that was a fun video, was it? Okay, bye.